All right then, guys. Last session saw Saxy navigating the airship's labyrinthine lower decks to find the engineering bay, determined to enhance his magical quiver. After a brief exchange with a dwarf engineer who marveled at his newly named Combat-Optimized Response Engine, or CORE for short, he gained access to the workshop. Inside, he spent hours absorbed in his craft, finding a rare sense of peace in the arcane hum and scattered tools around him. Tronald, deep in meditation, encountered a mental barrier within his psyche, a towering fog-like wall that seemed to guard memories from his past life as Lord Tanavir. In his dreams, a shadowy figure offered cryptic instructions. Reflect yourself, blind yourself so you can see, offer yourself. Waking, he knew these clues were key to unlocking both his past and Vitamin C's secrets. Celestia observed the court, studying the noble dynamics and catching the attention of Lady Thalia Jarnik, who tried to intimidate her with backhanded compliments. Celestia coolly dismissed her, earning a knowing smirk from Cassia nearby, signaling her growing influence among the nobles. Might trained in isolation, refining his bond with his symbiote. Though there were no drastic changes, his transformations grew smoother, promising more control over his abilities. Meanwhile, Raarh bonded with Thyros Tharkarethos on the deck, sharing stories of their struggles. Thyros revealed the dark tragedy driving him, the death of his mother at the hands of the ruthless Zeran Kesh. In a quiet pledge of loyalty, Raarh promised to stand by him when the time came to seek justice. So, we're on to day 2. What would you all like to do?
Are we starting with me again?
We don't have to keep it in order every time, but sure, let's start with you, Saxy.
All right, Joe, I want to start diving deep into the project now. I feel absolutely refreshed after yesterday's work. It's strange. Most folks would be exhausted after a day like that, but for me, there's something about metalwork that's energizing. Anyway, I know I need a power source to kick things off, so I'm heading back to the engineering bay. I grab the key, walk down there, and start searching for one of those power crystals.
Saxy, as you make your way to the engineering bay, you barely acknowledge the polite nods from passing nobles. Their greetings fall away as your mind fixates on the work ahead, the promise of tinkering pulling you forward. You unlock the heavy metal door and step inside, the familiar clangs and hums of the workshop greeting you. You head over to where you remember seeing the power crystals, but as you pick one up and examine it closely, a frown forms. The crystals are completely drained, their glow gone, leaving only a dull sheen. It dawns on you, these have likely been brought here for refurbishing, their energy used up in previous ventures. You'll need to find a live manethist crystal or another source of power to fuel your project.
Oh, fantastic. And here I thought it was going to be simple. All right, Joe, I'm going to try and find that head engineer dwarf, Laurent Stonebrew.
It doesn't take you long to track down Laurent Stonebrew. You find him sprawled on his back beneath a massive piston, its relentless pumping just inches above his barrel-wide chest, each beat dangerously close to flattening him like an overripe squash. Oil splatters across his face in messy streaks, dripping down into his scruffy beard and pooling at the edges of his scowling mouth. With one eye squinted shut against the oil, he barks at his crew with a voice like gravel grinding under a boot.
Oi, you clumsy, piss-handed fuckers. Hand me the damn socket wrench, not the bloody love tap.
His meaty fingers swipe blindly at a nearby worker's fumbling hands, catching a tool and yanking it toward him with a grunt.
And don't just stand there gawking like you've never seen a dwarf work. This bloody piston's got more sense than the lot of you put together.
The other workers, eyes wide, nod frantically and scramble to obey, practically tripping over each other as they shove more tools into his open palm. Stonebrew is in his element here, half swallowed by machinery, shouting down at the crew like a grumpy bear that somehow made its lair in an oil-soaked workshop.
I don't want to interrupt just yet, so for now, I watch.
Just as you're watching, one of the workers, nervous and clearly out of his depth, fumbles a heavy spanner which clatters down onto Stonebrew's knee with a dull, meaty thud. Stonebrew roars, "What the fuck
are you doing, lad? If you can't manage to hold a damn spanner, then go back to bed. Get me the arcane compression sprocket wrench, double-lined and mag-sealed, before this whole beast shuts down and snaps ye in half."
The workers scramble, looking around like sheep lost in a thunderstorm, and every second they delay, Stonebrew gets doused with another squirt of thick black oil, splattering his face like the dark blood of some infernal beast.
I step in, Joe. I grab that arcane compression sprocket wrench and hand it over to him.
Give me an intelligence check, Saxy.
That's a natural 19 for a 27 total.
The workers freeze as you stride past, their eyes darting from the wrench in your hand to your face, unsure if they should be confused or relieved. They shoot each other nervous glances, none willing to question you, though their expressions say they don't quite understand why you're here or why you're handling their tools like you own the place.
That's not the...
He starts, voice heavy with irritation, as if preparing to snap at whoever dared bring the wrong tool, but he stops short, blinking through a layer of oil when he realizes you've handed him the exact thing he asked for. Stonebrew mutters as he twists and locks the wrench in place, grunting through each turn, the piston letting out a low hiss as he secures it. Finally, he wriggles out from under the machine, wiping an oily hand across his dripping face.
Ah, Lord Garand, I can't thank you enough. I swear, these law act like they're trying to get me killed.
He shoots a glare toward the crew, who shrink back instinctively.
If they don't drown me in oil first, they'll probably drop the whole engine block on me head. Don't know if they're scared of me or just plain useless.
Probably just scared of you, Stonebrew. Can't say I blame him. I mean, look at the state of you. Covered in oil and bellowing like a dragon with a toothache. But hey, give them time. We all start somewhere. Pressure builds diamonds, doesn't it?
Damn right you are. Maybe I'm a bit hard on them. Can't help it. Bad habits from years of working alone, I suppose. Anyway, what can I do for you, Lord Garand? And how's that workshop treating you? You get yourself sorted with what you needed?
Almost, but I've hit a bit of a snag. I hold up one of the drained crystals. Turns out these beauties are about as useful as a pebble right now, fully depleted. I need something with a bit more life in it if I'm going to get this project off the ground. Figured you might have a lead on a live Manethus crystal, or anything else that could do the trick.
Give me a persuasion check, Saxy.
That's an 18 total.
Okay. He scratches his chin deep in thought.
Ah, so that's what you're after. A Manethus crystal, fresh as a spring lamb. But I'll be honest with you, Lord Garand, those crystals aren't the sort you just hand over for a bit of tinkering. I've got a couple under lock and key for emergencies, you see. These things, well, they could power a small city, and in the wrong hands, they could also level one.
A deep furrow of uncertainty creases his forehead.
Truth be told, lad, the workshop's one thing, but raw arcane power like that, mess it up and we're not just talking a few scorch marks. Use it wrong, and this whole damned airship could go up in flames.
He lets out a sigh, still eyeing you with wary respect.
I'm sorry, Lord Garand. I know you've a good head for craft, but handing over one of those, that's a different matter entirely.
Ah, that's unfortunate. But I understand, Stonebrew. You've been more than accommodating, so I won't push any further on the matter. Thanks for the help. All right, Joe, do I know of anything else that could power the property switch on the enchantment? Could the current power source of my armor supply enough energy?
No, Saxy, you know that while the power in your armor is potent, it doesn't come close to what you'd need. However, rather than relying on a crystal for a sustainable source, you could use residuum. You'd need quite a bit, around 5,000 gold's worth, but it would be fully consumed in the process. It's not a long-term solution, but it would deliver the power required for that one crucial use.
Well, we don't have anywhere near that much residuum. I know we have a little from way back when in Rick's Manor, but only a tiny amount. And I suppose the chances of me getting any residuum on this airship are slim to none, right, Joe?
Yeah, you'd have a better chance wringing blood from a stone. The stuff's pretty scarce. See, it's harvested primarily by the Empire itself, mined from the deepest veins and deposits in the known realms. Most of it never even sees daylight, tucked away in their reserves. What does get out, well, that goes through the Empire's merchants at inflated prices, dripping into the market in drops rather than waves.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense why Dalter and Rick were working on making a synthetic version, because getting access to large amounts of natural residuum would have been difficult. Obviously, they were looking at quantities much larger than I need, but still.
What's the plan then, Saxy? You just thinking you're going to wait it out and look into this modification later down the line? I'm sure Asmo Prime will have access to a power source like that.
Nah, I mean, sure, he might have something, but that's still only a maybe. And when are we ever going to get downtime like this again? Within the near future, at least, I don't see it happening.
So you just plan on giving up then, or what? Shame, really. I was looking forward to seeing it in action.
All right, Joe. I'm slipping one of these depleted Manethus crystals into my bag of holding. Once it's tucked away, I head back up to the main deck, moving through the maze of hallways and back to familiar ground. I make my way down the line of rooms until I reach Mites. I take a breath, shake off the lingering frustration that I didn't let come to the surface, and give the door a few solid knocks.
Hello, who is it?
It's me, Mite. Open up.
I walk to the door, Joe, and open it up, letting Saxy inside before pushing it to again.
So, Mite, I've got a job for you, a job that you're much better suited to than me. Honestly, it's probably stupid for me to even consider this, but we all have our flaws. And if I'm being honest, my biggest flaw is tech.
I'm sorry. What? Are you asking me a question here? Because I don't really know what you're getting at.
Right, sorry. To cut to the chase, there's something I need you to obtain for me. Something that just so happens to be on the ship.
Oh, so there's something you want me to steal for you?
I guess you could call it that, but regardless, it's one of these. I pull the dead crystal from my bag and hold it up, the dull surface catching the light, but giving no hint of the power it once held. This is what you're after, a live version of one of these. I lean in, pointing out a few subtle details. See the jagged patterns beneath the surface? A live one's got that too, but they're lit from within, like veins filled with molten metal. The color's richer too, a deep, pulsing red, almost like it's breathing in your hand. And if you hold it long enough, you'll start feeling the hum of energy, like holding a storm bottled up and begging to get out. I hand the crystal over for him to examine. This crystal's key to my project. With something like this, I've got ideas, Mite, crazy ones. Something that'll give us an edge in the fights coming up. There's enough raw power in one of these to light up the whole sky if it comes to that. We'd be fools to let this chance slip by.
Do I have any idea what this is, Joe, and how expensive they are?
Give me an intelligence check, Mite.
That's a 9.
Yeah, you have no idea, buddy.
Do I know how much they are, Joe? I know what they are, but I haven't actually asked about the price yet.
With your background, you're well aware of the general cost of these crystals. Stonebrew may have exaggerated a bit about one flattening a city, but if it detonated, it'd still wipe out a solid 100-foot radius, easily enough to bring this entire airship crashing down. As for price, a fully charged crystal runs around 1,000 platinum pieces. Depleted ones, though, practically worthless, maybe 50 gold if that.
Oh, right. That's a little bit disappointing.
Huh? You were hoping for something more expensive than that? What, you wanted to rob this airship for what it's worth and make off into the sunset?
No, don't be silly. I was just hoping that it could have been something a little more powerful. I thought that it was... You know what? Never mind. I still need one, though. As it will do for this project, at least.
Uh-huh. Right. Cryptic. Yeah, no bother. I'll get one for you. Just tell me whereabouts I'm supposed to be looking for it.
I'm not exactly sure where to look, but I do know that Stonebrew, the head engineer on this airship, has access to them. He's not the kind to leave something like that lying around, so it'll be locked up somewhere only he or a select few can get to. But that's about as much as I can give you. The rest? That's on you, Mite. I don't have anything else to go on.
So, this Stonebrew guy, anything else I should know about him? Does he make the rounds often, or does he camp out by his precious gadgets? You know, help a guy avoid any inconvenient run-ins.
He practically lives in the belly of the ship, buried under oil and iron. Half the crew's terrified of him, and for good reason. He's got a temper on him. He's a good guy, from what I've seen. But if he's not in the engineering bay, he's down there somewhere nearby.
Right. Well, your advice is basically worthless, Saxy, but hey, I'll still find one of these for you. Gives me something to do, lets me practice my new skill set and whatnot. All right, I'll be going then. See you soon, man. Oh, and pass me your bag of holding, will you? It'll come in handy to sneak one of them things out.
Oh, and Mite, do not get caught. If it looks like it's too risky, just back out, all right? Yeah, it'd be neat to have this power source, but it's not as big as I thought it'd be. If the quiver's got to wait a bit, then so be it. No big deal.
All right, Joe. I'm casting invisibility on myself, then slipping out of the room and down toward the engineering bay. I'll keep well out of the way. Last thing I need is someone running right into me and blowing my cover.
You murmur the arcane words, and in a shimmer you vanish. Moving through the narrow corridors, you slide past the occasional crew member, careful to avoid brushing against anyone. The air grows thick with the scent of oil and hot metal as you approach the engineering bay, the distant rumble of machinery getting louder with every step. Inside you spot him, who you can only assume to be Stonebrew. A dwarf with arms as thick as anchor chains and a permanent scowl etched into his oily, grimy face. He's in the thick of it, barking orders, hands flying between tools as he works with that infamous temper of his, jabbing a finger at any worker too slow to keep up. For the next 30 minutes, he's all grunts and grim focus, directing his crew with the kind of authority that leaves no room for mistakes. Then, with a final huff, he dusts his hands and leaves his post, casting a wary eye around the workshop before heading deeper into the ship. Invisible and silent, you trail Stonebrew as he leads you deeper into the ship's bowels. He descends not one but 3 long flights of metal stairs, each step echoing through the tight, dimly lit corridors. Finally, he reaches the bottom, his boots clanging against the grating as he strides forward with purpose. You watch as he stops in front of a thick, imposing metal door set into the wall like a vault. The door has no windows, just solid iron with 2 keyholes. Stonebrew pauses, eyeing the corridor briefly before he pulls a key from his belt and fits it into the first lock. A guard stationed by the door, waiting as if rehearsed, steps up and inserts his own key into the second lock, both turning simultaneously. With a heavy clunk, the door unlocks and Stonebrew slips inside.
Do I have enough time to squeeze through before it shuts?
Maybe. I'll need an acrobatics check from you.
I'll morph into my symbiote as I do it, to give me a bonus. So that's a 21 total, Joe.
As the heavy iron door begins to close, you lunge forward, morphing into your symbiote form mid-stride. Your limbs stretch slick and fluid, pulling and weaving through the narrowing gap, squeezing and contorting with inhuman agility. The door groans shut just as you slide your last tendril through, your symbiote flesh snapping back to form with a faint ripple as you land silently on the other side. Inside, the chamber is something of a marvel and a mystery. The walls are lined with what could only be described as an arcane circuit, a spider's web of pulsing, shimmering lines of power branching out in every direction. Each line weaves toward one of around 30 manethyst crystals, their pulsing ruby-red veins glowing in rhythmic flickers, like molten rivers frozen in glass. The energy surges through the web of lines, branching, curling, and crisscrossing in arcs around the room, each thread stretching taut with a sense of barely contained power. Stonebrew begins muttering to himself as he makes his way to one of the crystals near the wall, its glow sputtering irregularly. He sighs, running a thick, calloused hand across his forehead. He heads toward a hatch at the back, crouching down to unlock it. With a heavy click, he opens the door in the floor and reaches inside, pulling out a fresh palm-sized crystal. This one glows with that same rich, pulsing red, veins flaring and twisting with almost organic life like a beating heart encased in stone. Stonebrew walks back to the flickering crystal, carefully prying it out of its socket. The room goes pitch dark aside from the other 29 crystals, but the moment Stonebrew slots the new crystal in place, light floods back into the ship. All right, mate, I'm going to need an intelligence check from you.
That's a 17.
Nice. So it dawns on you, each crystal powers a different section of the ship. The entire airship is segmented, each piece of this intricate circuit drawing power from its own manethyst heart, linked yet separate. That means if you were to take a single crystal, you wouldn't bring down the whole ship, just a specific area. The structure is precise, controlled. It's an arcane masterpiece, hidden beneath layers of grit and steel.
Joe, do I get the sense that this isn't just a standard airship? I mean, powering light seems like a pretty average use for one of these crystals. I feel like the engines, shields, and weapon systems, if it has them, would require a lot more. And if these crystals did power stuff like that, they'd be being replaced all the time, surely. I don't know much about this kind of thing, but that's what would make sense to me.
All right, how about this, mate? Roll me an Arcana check. I want to see if you can piece this together.
Lucky. Nice. That's a natural 20, Joe.
Standing in the middle of this intricate web of crystals, you can't shake the feeling that something here doesn't add up. Sure, each of these manethyst crystals packs enough punch to light up a deck, maybe even power smaller systems, but it seems almost trivial. 30 crystals, all designated to mundane tasks. Lights, basic mechanisms, smaller enchantments. For an airship this size, 10 times larger than a standard model, powering the lights alone isn't enough to get it off the ground. You scan the room again, trying to piece it together, and a thought nags at you. Where's the real source? The engines, shields, and any serious defenses, there has to be something far more potent fueling those. With an airship this massive, you'd expect to see a central core, or at least evidence of a larger energy conduit running deeper into the ship. The manethyst web is impressive, yes, but it's unlikely to be the only thing keeping this behemoth afloat. Your instincts are telling you there's more to this vessel than meets the eye, likely a separate, larger power source hidden somewhere further within the ship's deepest levels, something designed to keep the entire operation running smoothly and, most importantly, to keep it in the air.
That certainly is interesting.
Indeed it is. Imagine, Mike, if you brought back one of these manifest crystals. Sure, Saxy would be pleased. He could tinker away, finish his little project. But think, just think, if you found the true source instead. He'd owe you quite the debt, wouldn't he? Of course, that's assuming there is a second power source. Unless you fancy the idea of us plummeting into the clouds, limbs flailing, plunging to our doom.
Yeah, I get the concept of plummeting thousands of feet to my death. You don't need to dumb it down for me. Joe, is Stonebrew still in the room? If he is, I'd like to wait for him to leave, then I will go to the back cupboard and pick up one of them Manethist crystals and put it in the bag of holding.
Okay. Stonebrew lingers, taking his time as he makes his way around the room, stopping at each crystal in turn, eyes narrowed as he inspects them, muttering under his breath. You watch as he finishes the last crystal, then turns his attention to the center of the web. Slowly, almost reverently, he crouches down, pressing his ear against the cold metal floor. He stays there, silent, his eyes half closed as if listening for something buried deep below. For 20 long seconds, he's still. A slight tension running through his shoulders. Then, satisfied, he stands, dusts his hands off, and heads for the door, letting it close with a faint clunk as he steps out, leaving you alone with the softly pulsing light of the crystals. You then make your way to the area Stonebrew had retrieved the spare Manethist crystal from. Reaching in, you pick one up, feeling its weight settle into your palm. The crystal's deep red veins pulse softly, like a heartbeat in your hand, radiating a faint warmth that almost hums beneath your fingers, alive with restrained energy. Carefully, you slide it into your bag of holding, feeling the thrum of arcane power disappear as it vanishes into the depths of the bag.
Sweet. All right, Joe. I'm going to walk over to the center of the room and lay down on the floor, pressing my ear to the metal. Can I hear anything?
Make a perception check for me.
That's a straight 15, but I get +3 on it because I'm relying on my symbiote senses.
Might, as you press your ear against the cold metal floor, you close your eyes, letting your symbiote's heightened senses guide you. At first, there's only silence, the occasional creak of the airship's structure, but then, just below that, you catch it, the faintest hum, a sound that seems to pulse with a rhythm of its own, distinct from the airship's machinery. It's almost mesmerizing, a low, deep vibration like a heartbeat slowed to a crawl. The sound isn't random, it's purposeful, steady, as if some immense, contained power were being carefully channeled, held back. Whatever this source is, it lies far below, hidden deep within the ship's belly, like a sleeping giant waiting just beneath your ear, its energy barely masked by the ship's more superficial workings.
Can't even see a way down there. No hidden hatches, no ladders, no damn nothing. It's like the thing doesn't exist, but I can hear it, just sitting down there humming away.
Oh, poor Mite. All that precious power, so close, and yet you can't reach it.
Thanks for the reminder, really appreciate it. I'm just saying I can't exactly punch a hole through the floor, can I? Might blow the whole ship apart.
Ha! Always with the limitations, Mite. Thinking like a fragile little mortal.
What's that supposed to mean? If you've got any bright ideas, now's the time. Otherwise, keep quiet, yeah?
Oh, we can get down there, Mite. If you but desire, I can take us.
Take us? You mean you're saying you can get us through all this metal right down to the source?
With ease.
So what do you need me to do then?
I need full control, Mite. Not just a hand or a foot, a quarter or a half. But all of you. Everything. I hope that you feel you can trust me enough for this. Trust in me, Mite, and I promise I'll bring us where we need to be.
This is tough, Joe. So, full control. This would be me handing over everything. Full access, all of me. What happens if it doesn't want to give me back? Can't just ask nicely, can I? Nah. If it wants to keep running the show, it does. And I'm just there, like a passenger with no damn say. Only way I get control back is if it decides to hand it over, or I get knocked out.
You can give me an insight check if you like.
Yeah, I think I will. That's a 13.
You peer inside, trying to feel out the symbiote's motives, searching for any tell, any shift in tone, something to give away its intent. But the thing's a blank slate, as smooth and unyielding as polished stone, and that smile you imagine behind its words is as slippery as oil on water. You can't see if it's hiding anything, or if it's really as earnest as it sounds. It's like staring down a predator crouched in tall grass. Could be waiting for the chance to lunge, or maybe it's just lying there, as calm as a kitten. With a 13, all you get is that familiar, unsettling sensation of something vast and unknowable, coiled just beyond your reach. Trusting it would be a leap in the dark, and all you've got is its word that the fall won't be endless.
Well, I've already started down this path. Been playing the sacrificial goat for my friends, so might as well see it through. All right, Joe, I'm going to do it. I'm giving full control.
You take a breath, and with a final mental push, you relinquish control, feeling the symbiote surge forward, no longer just merging with you, but taking over completely. It's different. This isn't the usual melding of your minds. This is you stepping back, watching from a hazy dream as your body moves without your command. The world shifts as the symbiote floods outward, pooling and spreading from your skin like liquid shadow. You feel yourself stretch, elongate, and sink into every crack, every microscopic space between the panels on the floor, pressing yourself through the tiniest gaps, slithering down through the machinery below. The metal walls slide past your vision in a surreal blur, senses both sharpened and muffled, like watching it all happen from the other end of a long, dark tunnel. You drip through the belly of the ship, slipping between gears and cables, your body splitting and reforming as it winds through every possible angle. Heat pulses around you, then suddenly a chill as the symbiote forces itself through vents and slats, parts of you stretching and bending in ways that should be impossible. Some parts twist in circles as mechanisms spin past, others flex through grated barriers, slipping through pathways no human could ever reach. After what feels like an eternity, but can't be more than 5 minutes, you sense the symbiote pooling back together, pulling in and solidifying until you drip, drop by drop, onto a cold metal walkway. You're in a large, dimly lit chamber now, a humming cavern of exposed cables and raw power. Ahead of you, 2 massive crystals hover in the air, suspended by intricate arrays of arcane lines and magnetic fields. The first crystal glows with a deep, magnificent blue, veins of energy pulsing through it with a steady, powerful rhythm, like the heartbeat of the entire ship. Just behind it, a second crystal, identical in form but dimmer, waits silently, poised to take over only if the first should fail. The redundancy is clear, even without words. 1 crystal to carry the ship's lifeblood, and another to guard against catastrophe.
Well, I'll be damned. You did it. Can I have my body back now, please?
The symbiote says nothing in response to your request, instead moving toward the 2 crystals in front of you with an unsettling curiosity. It leans close, inhaling the power that seems to pulse off the crystals like heat from a forge, fingers shifting to a dark liquid as it strokes along the surface, savoring every touch. Beneath you, the drop is dizzying, a yawning funnel-like vent leading directly out of the ship, where powerful gusts of wind and raw magic spiral downward in a tight, chaotic vortex. The funnel narrows, leading out to the open sky below, and through the small opening you catch sight of mountains far below, the peaks like mere toothpicks from this height. It's the kind of fall you'd have time to think about on the way down. Suddenly, the symbiote coils around the second crystal, gripping it in liquid tendrils, and with a powerful yank pulls it free. The crystal releases with a muted crack, and instantly a shudder pulses through the ship. It's brief but intense, the metal around you groaning with the strain. For one sharp moment, your heart drops. Even the symbiote pauses, almost holding its breath as the vibrations fade, leaving a heavy silence in their wake. The symbiote's voice purrs through your mind, smug.
See? We did it.
Great. Can I have my body back now?
Why, of course you can.
But before it can finish, there's a faint hiss as the heavy doors at the far end of the walkway begin to slide open. Instantly, the symbiote slips below the grated platform, liquid form clinging tightly to the underside, your view now peering up through the grating as a figure enters the chamber. The man steps heavily across the metal walkway, his boots echoing in the cavernous space. He mutters to himself, his voice a blend of irritation and unease.
Why is it always my shift when this crap happens?
His voice trembles slightly as he pauses near the edge, casting a wary glance down through the funnel drop.
This place gives me the creeps.
He shudders, pulling back from the edge, his face pale as he tries to shake off whatever image of falling he's just conjured in his mind. Above you, he walks on, blissfully unaware of the coiled danger gripping the grating beneath his feet.
Do I recognize the guy? It's not Stone Brew, is it?
No, mate, it's not Stone Brew. The figure is human, dressed in the standard gear of a guard rather than an engineer. He's got that look of someone on the tail end of a long shift, fidgety, glancing around like he'd rather be anywhere else but here.
Well, hurry up and give me my body back then, or get us out of here before he notices the crystal's missing.
And how exactly would that solve the problem, Might? He would still notice the crystal's absence the moment he looks.
What are you suggesting?
Oh, I think you know exactly what I'm suggesting.
No, come on, no more innocent people, man. That Valen Garan was one thing. But this is just us stealing something. We don't need to leave a trail of bodies everywhere we go.
Well, if killing isn't your preference, we could try something interesting.
And what would that entail?
Just then you hear the guard's voice, a muffled, panicked whisper as he stares at the empty slot where the crystal should be.
Oh, shit. Why is it always on my shift that this kind of thing happens? If they find out, they'll kill me. The whole ship could be at risk. Damn it. Gotta tell Stonebrew. No way am I going down alone for this. Oh gods.
He glances nervously around, still muttering under his breath as he turns and bolts down the walkway.
No time to explain, Might. Do you trust me? Yes or no?
Yes, I trust you. Just do it.
The symbiote doesn't hesitate. With an effortless surge, it launches itself from beneath the grating, shooting upward like a shadow with a mind of its own, intercepting the guard in mid-sprint. His eyes barely have time to widen before a slick, oily hand clamps over his mouth, muffling his scream. His struggles are sharp and frantic, arms flailing, but they slow as he realizes too late that something darker, something alive is forcing its way inside. Then you feel it. A strange cold rush as your body, no, the symbiote's body, begins pouring down the man's throat. It's like drowning in reverse, an inky torrent slipping through clenched teeth, coiling around his tongue and sliding deeper, writhing down with a purpose. Okay, so the guard is going to have to make a constitution save. The save is 8 plus your symbiotic relationship bonus, so 11. Damn, he rolled a 7. All right. His eyes bulge, veins pressing under his skin as he tries to scream, but it only comes out as a sickly, garbled choke. And then the infection takes root. The man's entire body goes taut, muscles locking, his fingers trembling as if frozen in midair. His pulse stutters, fighting back against the invasion, but it's no use. The symbiote flows through every vein, every nerve, every cell, creeping like oil through cracked earth, filling him with a slow, invasive darkness. His thoughts scatter. Memories splinter as they're pulled under, dragged into the hive, into your awareness. His resistance fades to nothing, leaving only a hollow vessel, eyes dulling as he joins the pulsing rhythm of the hive. Now he's part of you, part of it, a silent puppet connected to the symbiote's vast shared mind. The guard's mouth opens and shuts as if testing out its new reality, and a grim, satisfied calm settles over him. The body relaxes, tension melting away as the symbiote completes its work, and the man stands perfectly still, his mind fully subservient to you.
What the actual fuck, dude? You could do that this whole time. Why didn't we do this on Valen?
Calm the hell down, boy. Didn't even know it'd work, to be honest. Just a bit of creative problem solving since you were so set on not killing him. But that's pretty cool.
So, what does this even do? I can feel his thoughts, his senses, like he's right in my head, but separate, you know?
I haven't exactly tried it before, but I get the sense he's part of us now. A link, a piece of a hive mind, you could say. We think it, he does it. We tell him to jump, he jumps. Tell him to stay silent, and not a word leaves his mouth. His thoughts. They're not his alone anymore. They feed into ours, threads in the same web. It's a bond, Might. And we could grow it, spread it, if we wanted. Imagine what a few more minds, all connected, could do.
One step at a time, dude. Let's just get out of here first before you start building an army.
All right. Sounds good to me.
And with that, Might, you suddenly feel control rush back into your body. You're still in the inky, blackened form of the symbiote, but now you have full control. Every movement yours. The world around you shifting back to a familiar clarity.
All right, Joe. First, I put the larger crystal into the bag of holding. Then I want to, I guess I need to get out of here, so I'm going to drop my symbiotic form. Then I'm going to dimension door 300 feet directly upwards.
Oh shit, well sure thing, man. With a quick glance over your shoulder towards the now dormant guard, you reach out and carefully slip the larger crystal into the bag of holding. It thuds into the endless space within, the weight of it vanishing along with that intense, thrumming energy. There's no time to admire the prize. You let your symbiotic form melt away, feeling your limbs and senses sharpen back to normal. Muttering the arcane words, you focus on your destination, and in an instant, the space around you warps. Reality splits and snaps as you feel yourself yanked through dimensions, the claustrophobic press of the chamber vanishing, replaced by an almost violent rush of air as you're pulled 300 feet straight up. The sudden shift leaves you breathless, and the world around you expands in all directions. You blink, and the realization hits. You're hovering a dizzying 100 feet above the airship, a colossal floating fortress, its shadow stretching across the clouds below. The roar of the wind hits you, and in the distance, you watch as the ship, your one link back to safety, starts pulling away, its immense speed threatening to leave you behind with each second passed. In this empty expanse of air, you're just a lone figure, a heartbeat away from being left behind, and every instinct screams at you to find a way back, fast.
Well, goddamn, little bit too high. All right, I cast Dimension Door again, this time aiming 100 feet down, right onto the deck of the ship. I want to try and aim it so I land in a quiet area where nobody will see me.
Roll me a d20 plus your spellcasting modifier.
What's this for?
It's to see how well you can judge the X and Z axis. You know you're 100 feet up because I told you, but it's hard to gauge how far across or wide you need to be.
Come on, man, that's a 7 total.
With a quick curse, you cast Dimension Door again, this time aiming straight down, focusing hard on a quiet, empty part of the deck, somewhere you can land without anyone noticing. The spell pulls you in, space warping around you, and when it drops, you feel your feet hit solid ground, or so you think. The moment you look around, it hits you. Solid ground, yeah, sure. But nowhere near the deck. You're in a cramped, dimly lit cabin, the floor cluttered with discarded clothes and what looks like an empty wine bottle rolling near your feet. Before you can even process that, you hear noises, a groan, followed by a giggle. You turn slowly toward the sound, feeling a creeping sense of dread, and through the open bathroom door there they are, a middle-aged couple, blissfully lost in their own little world of shenanigans. The man, all gut and no shame, has his back to you, and the woman's leaning against the sink, shrieking with delight as he plants sloppy kisses up her neck, both oblivious, both in full enthusiasm. They don't currently see you, but for how long it will remain like that is anyone's guess.
And that's one mental image we'll never erase.
Invisibility, Joe! Then I get the hell out of here and go find Saxy!
You barely finish muttering invisibility before the spell kicks in, and you slip from the room like a ghost with a purpose, shutting the door quietly behind you. The corridor feels like fresh air after that unfortunate scene, but of course, the symbiote won't let it drop.
Oh my. Didn't know we were sneaking into a live performance. Did you catch the size on that guy? Or rather, the lack of it.
You hurry down the hall, footsteps quiet, practically swallowing down any mental response to avoid fueling its fire.
Oh, come on, Mite. Don't act like you didn't enjoy it. I know you did.
You round another corner, fighting the urge to claw at your temples, wishing you could mute the symbiote entirely.
Honestly, I think you should have stayed a little longer. Maybe you could have taken notes. He did, after all, have exquisite techniques.
Finally, blessedly, you make it back to your quarters, slipping inside to see Saxy waiting, idly glancing over his tools. He looks up and you drop invisibility, the symbiote's voice finally quieting as if it's just had the laugh of its life.
Oh, hey man, did everything go, all right?
No, I'm horrified, Saxy. I'm literally scarred for life.
Right. Well, the crystal? How do we do with that?
Oh yeah, don't worry. I got you one of those. I fish into the bag, pulling out the smaller crystal first, holding it up before setting it on the table. But, I may have picked up something a bit bigger. I reach back in, pulling out the true source crystal and handing it over. Here you go, Saxy.
What the hell? Mike, where did you find that? And what even is it?
Well, that's the backup power crystal, you know, for the main one that's actually keeping this whole damn ship running. Those little crystals, I gesture to the smaller one on the table. Those are just powering the lights, maybe the Noble's wine coolers or some other nonsense. But this beauty, this is the real deal. Raw power right here.
Oh my god. So, if the main crystal kicks the bucket, we're all going down in a fiery plunge from the heavens? That's, not great.
I'm sure it'll be fine. These things are built to last, right?
Right. Well, you have no way of knowing that, but sure. Fingers crossed, I guess. Thanks, Mite. This is Honestly incredible.
Yeah, no worries. Good luck with whatever insane thing you're gonna build out of it.
Oh, right, yeah. This is your room. I should probably leave. Does anyone else want to jump in and take their turn? I feel like I'm hogging a lot of the limelight.
No, hog away, my friend. You have to listen to all of our stuff whenever we go on deep dives or tangents, so this is fun enough just watching you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Did Mike give me my bag of holding back?
Oh shit, no. Here, take it.
All right, Joe. I'm heading back to the engineering bay, and don't worry. I'll make sure both of these crystals are stashed somewhere safe, out of sight. Once I'm in there, I'll take a quick scan to ensure no one else is lurking around. Can't have prying eyes on what's about to be my most daring upgrade yet. See, what I'm planning here is a complete core retrofit. I'll be decoupling the thaumaturgic conduit from my current power source and recalibrating the entire conversion flow. This forearm-sized beauty will slot in to amplify arcane throughput exponentially. I'll need to recalibrate the stabilizing oscillators and tweak the harmonics to prevent any wild arcane feedback. But if it works, the energy yield should be, well, let's just say leagues beyond anything I've managed before.
What the fuck's he talking about?
He's wanting to swap the power source of his armor.
Oh, shit. Really? Okay, man. I mean, we can certainly give that a go, but I just want to make you aware that this could be incredibly powerful, or it could go incredibly wrong. Are you sure you want to do it?
Joe, Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps. If he could manage that, I think I've got this under control.
All right, Saxy, sweet. So, first up is the initial calibration of the crystal. This is where we gauge its energy output and stabilize it, making sure you don't end up with a magical meltdown on your hands. You're not just plugging this thing in, you're tuning it like the world's most temperamental nuclear battery. Now, give me an Arcana check.
That's a 25 total.
Nicely done. The crystal hums to life as you lean over it. You stretch out your hands, fingertips hovering just above the shimmering, gorgeous electric blue surface. Your brow furrows as you tap into the arcane currents flowing within, your mind delving deep into the complex web of energy inside the crystal. Threads of energy twist and coil like serpents in a nest, each one radiating power. You reach out mentally, nudging one of the energy strands into place, feeling the resistance like a weight pressing against your mind. With a steady breath, you attune your senses further, pushing through the strain. The energy twists under your control, realigning slowly but surely, bending to your will as you coax it into a steady rhythm. Each thread vibrates in harmony, forming a stable, resonant hum, but the effort takes its toll. A sharp, stabbing pain pulses through your temples, a psychic backlash from the sheer mental exertion. It's as though the crystal itself is resisting, testing you. In the end, you succeed, leaving the crystal perfectly calibrated, but your mind throbbing with fatigue. A dull ache settles in behind your eyes. That's 7 psychic damage.
Motherfucker. That hurt. But no time to rest. I move on to the next stage.
All right, so the next step is decoupling the existing power core. Careful now, give me a dexterity check.
Ugh, so I rolled a 9 total, but I'm going to use a flash of genius to bring that to 14.
Okay, good thing too, because the DC was 13.
Damn.
You've done this before, but each time you know it's a roll of the dice. The old power core sits nestled in the heart of your armor, a rough, fist-sized hunk of enchanted crystal housed in a copper frame, its glow dim and worn. It's barely held together with tarnished silver filaments, just enough to keep your basic systems running. It's a simple thing, maybe worth 200 gold at best, but it's faithfully done its job. An old friend you've depended on. You reach in, careful fingers navigating the tangle of wiring and delicate enchantments, each touch calculated to avoid triggering the wrong arcane current. The core hums with a faint, tired protest, a final show of resistance. With a sharp twist, you pop it free, the circuits around it shuddering before falling silent. A faint crackle of residual energy arcs to your fingers, a brief sting, a reminder that no matter how many times you do this, it's never without its risks. All right, Saxy, give me an Arcana check for step 3, integrating the crystal as the new power source. This is where things get tricky. We're talking about aligning raw, arcane flow with your armor's lattice grid. Any imbalance here, and we're looking at catastrophic feedback.
Fuck yes. That's a 22 total.
The crystal rests in your hands, thrumming with the raw hum of arcane power. Tools scatter the workbench around you, splicers, resonant stabilizers, even an arcane frequency tuner humming softly beside a scatter of half-melted metal scraps. You take a steadying breath, steeling yourself for the next part. You set the crystal carefully into place, but the moment it touches the housing, the energy surges, an immediate backlash that threatens to short out the entire lattice. With lightning reflexes, you grab a resonance stabilizer, slamming it against the housing. It clamps down with a hiss, muting the wild energy for a breath. You have seconds before it'll burn out. You grab a monosplicer, twisting it into the grid to channel the runaway energy. A blue spark arcs across the bench, grazing your hand, the smell of ozone filling the air. You take 30 points of lightning damage. But there's no time to worry about singed skin. You reach for the arcane frequency tuner, fingers slick with sweat, turning the dial to synchronize the crystal's oscillation with the armor's grid. For a split second, the resonance wobbles on the edge of disaster. One misalignment here and you'd have a full-blown arcane detonation on your hands. But you hold your breath, fingers gripping the tuner's dial and twist it just a notch. The crystal's furious hum steadies, harmonizing with the lattice as the energy flow smooths. One by one, the nodes light up in cascading blue along the armor, the lattice grid settling like the pieces of a puzzle falling into place, each arcane line glimmering with power. Just as you think you're in the clear, a faint whine escapes from one of the stabilizers. The strain of holding back so much power is pushing it to its limit. Thinking quickly, you grab the capacitor off the bench, jamming it between two exposed conduits to siphon off the excess energy. It crackles and shakes, but the arcane backlash diffuses, the final jolt absorbed. You take another 14 points of lightning damage from that. And then finally, silence. The crystal's glow settles, a steady, deep blue pulse integrated seamlessly. Your armor thrums, charged with power so potent it practically radiates warmth through the workshop.
Well, I'll be damned. I did it. I actually did it. Holy shit, that was intense.
Well done, buddy. I'm going to send you a list of all the new things you could potentially upgrade into your armor with this new power source. Take your time to think about them, and drop me a message when you've decided. We will just say that you spend the rest of the airship journey making them adjustments and completing the quiver if you still want to. Just let me know.
All right, sweet. Joe, there's something I've been thinking about. I don't know if it'll be on your list, but it's something I want to add it. See, I was thinking maybe a sort of an overload function, a last resort button, just something that channels every ounce of energy from this crystal into one focused eruption right from the chest. A blast so potent it'd wipe out anything and everything around me, including myself. A last resort.
We can talk about that later tonight, buddy, but yeah, I don't see why not. But yeah, that's where we're going to wrap up this session. I know things are moving a tad slow right now, but there's some pretty important things and unlocks you're all doing, so I don't want to skip over them. So yeah, see you later, guys.